Go ahead and ask me.
What happened?
Well, my boyfriend got deployed for a year. We started dating after he was sent to Fort Hood, Texas. Um, we were friends through high school, and we just never got a chance to be together as a couple before he had gotten deployed.
Okay, how did that affect you?
I was nervous about starting the relationship so early in his deployment. Um, People either doubted us or supported us, and all of our family members on both sides had supported us. They all kind of knew that we were going to end up together at some point, just not during deployment. And I was also really scared for his safety while he was gone.
Okay, what was the result?
In the end, it made our relationship a lot stronger. Our relationship was built off of love instead of lust, and we learned how to fully communicate with each other throughout the whole deployment.
Okay, and what are ways that you dealt with this stressor?
With the stressor. Um, I dealt with it by keeping busy a lot. I got into doing CrossFit. I focused a lot on my own health and my own happiness and how I felt about myself and kept busy in school. So I just kept myself busy.
Awesome.
What happened with you?
Well, my parents separated and divorced when I was 8 years old. This was a major turning point in my life. When my dad was served the divorce papers, we were in an apartment, like living there, and he came in, like screaming and yelling, and they just had like this big argument. And I remember that day, like as it was yesterday, like it was stuff that I was supposed to eat, didn't even eat it, and I went to school like just stressed out, honestly.
Okay, how did it affect your family?
This affected my family because my dad, he was angry. I was angry. I felt like my mom, there was like a sadness there. My sister, she was used as kind of like my toy to jab at because I was angry. So my relationship with her is kind of bad because I would yell at her and get off my steam because of her. Another thing was I felt like it was something missing, and I didn't realize what it was until I was 19 years old, which is like currently that I was missing that father figure telling me that I'm beautiful and just things like that. Um, so, I mean, it was just weird because then you have to deal with the family like, where's your mom? Well, they're not together with my dad, so we're just here with my dad, things like that. And then I developed a more of a trust for my mom instead of my father, so I still have that because I lived with her. So, yeah, a lot of stuff changed.
So, how'd you guys deal with this?
Well, I took it out on like throwing stuff and like yelling. Like people see me as a smiley person. I was not, and I am not. Just when I go home, like gets crazy. But we did like pray a lot. We went to church, so that helped because my mom was a Christian, and eventually, we just overcame it. We talked to people. I went to different counselors, and that helped a little bit. But yeah, what happened?
So we relocated. It was my mom, my stepdad, my two half sisters. We went from New York to North Carolina. I was born and raised there, so my parents lived there for 17 years, and then my dad's job relocated us to Winston-Salem.
How did it affect your family?
Well, my mom was separated from her family, so we didn't have any relatives down here. It was just us. We didn't know anyone in the South. Um, and so it was lonely for a few years. We had to adapt to a new environment and new people. We didn't see family as often as we did. Holidays were a little bit lonely. So at the same time, my mother was looking for a new job, so she had to leave her old job to find a new one. Another stressor was I had to go to a new school, so I had to make new friends. I was in eighth grade at the time, so I was almost in high school, so I had to meet a whole new group of friends, and that was just a little bit overwhelming, especially being from the north coming to the south, having a thick accent, and then people expecting me to be from Mexico, and I wasn't, and they thought that I didn't know English, and I was like, but I do, and it was just a different dynamic down here than what I was used to in the north.
Okay. And what were the results, or how did you deal with this?
We just attended social events. So my dad had some coworkers. We would hang out with him. And then my mom, when she found a new job, we would spend time there. We would attend local church events. We would do school events. We kind of really wanted to just put ourselves out there, so we started doing more than we were used to, kind of just stepping out of our comfort zone. That's just how we kind of dealt with making new friends in the midst of all that.
Awesome, cool.
So, what happened to you?
So, when I was 10 years old, my grandma was actually diagnosed with stomach cancer. She had two surgeries, and after the second one, they realized that the cancer lined the entire inside of her stomach. So, by this point, it was pretty much a chronic disease. So, she was moved into my house with hospice care.
And how did it affect you and the family?
It kind of just changed our whole family dynamic because instead of a normal routine, like everything changed. We had to wake up earlier or stay up later. We also had to make more time to stay at the house because since my parents took care of my grandma, like we had nurses come in every week, but they were the main caregivers, so we had to be there consistently.
And what was the result, and what ways did you deal with the stressor?
Well, after my grandma died, actually, it just seemed as if things would probably back to normal, and they did eventually. But for a long time, it was just hard not having her there, having like the consistency that we had for those, like that whole year. And in a way, like me and my younger sister, she was 8 at the time. We just didn't understand why everything happened the way it did, and it caused a lot of like family confusion and grief. And so basically, we just started getting more involved with other parts of my family, and my church helped out a lot. So that's basically how we dealt with it. dealt with it. So what happened?
Okay. Growing up in a black single parent home, the odds were already against my mother and me. My mother worked in a fast food restaurant, a call center, and even a school to make ends meet. No, not all these jobs were worked at once, but they're all the jobs I remember my mother working until we reached financial stability.
Okay, and how did this affect the family?
Well, during her employment at the restaurant and call center, I was taken care of by my parents. I wasn't ever hungry, but I do remember times when my mother went without. She made sure I had access to health care and medicines I needed, and I was even able to participate in karate lessons at the Y. But my mother stayed strong through it all, no matter what the struggle we went through.
Okay, and what were the results after and some of the ways that you coped?
Okay. Well, once she became employed at the school, our days of financial struggle began to dwindle. My mother was able to not only provide for her one and only daughter, but she was able to provide for herself. She went back to school, and she's now received her bachelor's and master's, and she's working on her administrative license. And I'm currently working in school and playing rugby, and I aspire to be as strong as her.